We're here at the Honourable Derek Walcott's house at his invitation because he wanted to have a roundtable discussion with selected St. Lucia poets, which he chose. But when we got here, it wasn't a discussion per se, it was more him taking charge and talking about things that he wouldn't normally say to the television cameras, but only to his friends and poets. So please enjoy our contribution to St. Lucia's Nobel Laureate Week.
We all, as writers, live in a bilingual situation. We have two languages that we have access to. One is, of course, French Creole and English. As writers, as poets particularly, have you done any translation individually, I ask you, of any Creole legend or poetry? Kendal, have you?
Yeah, I have done, not a lot. I do think that the little I've done, the couple of poems have been, I feel like, I've been basically structured enough, what I'm remembering of them, that working, not necessarily trying to, that working to keep a rhythmic parallel, not necessarily getting the same rhythms, but working to keep a rhythmic parallel.
Yeah, but what do you mean by a rhythmic parallel?
I mean, like in terms of the meter, trying to get a reproduction of the meter. I was not trying for that.
Yeah.
But trying to have a meter going through.
Now, how exact
as possible?
How exact is that decision about meter comparing the two forms?
I'm not 100% sure I'm following the question.
I'm saying, is the Patois or Creole version, does it go syllabically exactly with the English?
No. And again, I said I'm going off. I've probably just done about like 3 translations, and my memory of them, no, it's not going exactly syllabically. But I didn't regard it as a problem either, because I'm not doing it on this sort of feet, so to speak. More on if you like stresses.
But you've written music for the stage. I mean, you've written lyrics for the stage.
Yes, but not in Creole. Well, yeah, just one. I done one in Creole, but I wasn't thinking of translation necessarily or anything because they were going to be sung in Creole.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to think about what may be involved if I had to transpose them into English. Yeah.
So you could have something almost like a free verse translation of the original?
Yes, yeah. Which frankly is what I would
But here's the question.
recommend.
Were you going by your meter in English?
Mm-hmm.
Or were you going by a Creole rhythm?
I was going by a Creole rhythm because again, the song I'm thinking of at the moment, it was a bit like it was a Lacomet.
Yeah.
So that's the rhythm, that's the rhythmic frame that guided it. So again, I'm not transposing anything. I'm going original Creole form and composing in Creole within that form. And the melody came with it and everything. So it's all,
So it fit.
all set. It fit.
Okay.
It fit. Yeah.
What's your experience?
With the Creole, I think I haven't done any translation of any Creole into English or anything like that. What I tried to do is, in terms of coming from where I'm coming from with the actual thing. In fact, I grew up in a house with that kind of dichotomy very present. My mother and father like that. And if I go further back, my great-grandfather only spoke Creole and his wife only spoke English. But when I got to Trinidad, I remember hearing not the cadences of the Creole, but hearing the Creole kind of translated into English in the way Trinidadians would say things. And I was recognizing in the way they would say things, the language that I knew at home. So I think in various poems, it varies.
You're saying you kind of spoke Trinidadian at home?
Beg your pardon?
You're saying you spoke Trinidadian at home?
No. I'm saying that in hearing Trinidadian English,
Yeah.
if you translate exactly how they say some things, it's how we say it in Creole. Like what you call full frontal, where you say cross-eye crossing the road, right? It's the same way you would say it in Creole. So the phrasing, the way the syntax itself was there. So I would draw on that at least to some degree to see how I could create in English, not in Creole, in English, a kind of language I could work with that somehow begins to approximate the things I would hear. But it's never been a complete kind of translation.
Are you attracted to the idea of translation?
I am, definitely. But I knew what my limitations were at the time, and I was trying to work within these.
How good is your Creole? Good?
I was learning Creole at university. I think I always had the sense of the cadences of the language, but in terms of vocabulary, I started learning it rapidly at university, just going after it relentlessly.
You didn't speak any Creole at home?
At home, you were told not to speak Creole, or
really?
Yeah, you were told not to speak Creole, or you grew up in a house where Creole is only spoken where.
Parlez patois.
No. Yeah, exactly. Not really. Don't speak Creole, but it would be understood that when Creole is being spoken, it's because it's something you're not supposed to hear. Right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I mean, I was working within that, and in a sense, I was trying to capture the fact that I do speak an English kind of Creole in St. Lucia, and I wondered what is the relationship between that and the French Creole that we spoke, because some of it was littered with the words themselves, and it also has perhaps some of the cadences in it as well. So I guess I was working with a kind of mesolect, a kind of in-between space, and what I did is kind of speculate with Creole words where I thought it would come in, because that's how we do it in the English Creole, that we speak it and we sometimes there's a French Creole word in there, here and there, when we speak it. So I was trying to work with that, within a sense where my voice was at the time in terms of my own relationship with Creole.
Theater is easier in a sense, because you're translating from one language to another. And, Creole, patois, plays, if you want, are easy, because not easy, but you're using that particular language, not necessarily with translation.
Yeah.
What is fascinating to me is what the poets do with original culture, if you understand. I mean, recently I worked on Cézanne, and Cézanne is a brilliant poet. She's not just a musician, she is a genuine poet. In fact, some of Cézanne reminds me of Rimbaud. I'm not making a comparison between Cézanne and Rimbaud, but there's a relationship, I think. Both of them are poets, Even a line like, there's a poem by Rimbaud about Charleroi going for a walk, and it's very similar to the line by Cézanne, Mon genou,
Gauchemin.
Mon chemin à gauchemin. What do you say about gauchemin? What would you say for mon chemin à gauchemin?
I bet you like in the big open road, like.
No, but you only have syllabically.
Yes. Whole other thing.
No, but you can find it.
It would be possible to find it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming it would be possible to find it.
Yeah.
Highway.
What would you say?
One chemin, that's 3 syllables.
But you didn't tell me.
I would have said something. He said open road.
Yeah, I was more like in the big open road, but then for now, I was not thinking of the syllable.
Yeah, but I think this happens. You have two adjectives. Yeah. Big and open.
Yeah.
Somehow the Creole go contains that. So it's a feeling. That's the feeling. It's the feeling of meeting out in the open on the high road. Not in a corner somewhere, but out in the open.
Yeah.
Where a very public embarrassment happens. Moi, je vais nous catcher, and this wonderful line.
Moi, je vais nous tout déchirer.
Moi, je vais nous tout déchirer. I met you and you were all torn up. What is that? That's fantastic. Because the sociology, I don't want to start a lecture, but the sociology of her talking about a guy all torn up. Who is that guy? What does he do? What's his work? And maybe too déchiré, maybe not physically, clothes,
Emotionally torn up.
but your condition.
I think of it as both. I always thought of it as both.
Because it continues that she brings him to a store.
But if you
gets him
see
stuff to
both,
eat.
if you see both, and you see all of that in there, then that's exactly the power of what, like big open two adjectives. When you see both poor and broke, and she has that concision that can happen, right? In it. But I think it's something we almost have a duty to transform, to translate, to adapt these poems, I think. Robert, you've done that. Tell about it.
Yeah, well, my experiences were similar, say, to Kendal and Vladimir. I've translated the Session song you talk about. I wasn't going to get as close as possible to, if you're on the metrical or even rhyming. I went for a freer translation, but the English, I wanted to get as close as possible to, if you want, the way we would say, a kind of English patois, if you want. I'm looking at it in front of me. If I tell you tore up my heart,
No, but
you can say yes.
you have to sing it.
Ah, well,
No,
I will sing the English. Yeah,
see
from
if it
song to
fits.
song.
You have to fit the music.
Oh, I take your point. Yes, yes, okay. At the time, I don't recall doing that. To sing the English to see if it fit the rhythms and melodic line of the Creole. I can try that later again to see if that worked. But at the time, I don't remember I'm doing that. But
So if each of you had to do that now, Moi je nous cat en gauche chemin. I met you on.
how the melody line goes there.
What's that?
I met you on the highway. I call the highway. On the big highway.
I met you on the highway. You had an accident.
Or if you want to use the three syllable line on the big
But
highway.
your shift will be great. You'd have to sing, I met you on the highway. The stress is wrong.
Yeah, so you have to add something there. Maybe I said the Gonshima, the big highway.
Right.
Yeah, you have to add something.
Kendall's big open road
Would be better, I think.
would work.
Would work better, I think so, yes.
So,
In fact, big open road, I like a road rather
but
than
it's
a
not
highway.
accurate for the patois. One word.
Gonshima.
So tell us more about that. What happened with it?
Well, in doing that, you try to get even though you're going from Patois Creole into the English, you still want to get a kind of quote-unquote creolization of the English line. It's not just straight standard English, but you want to...
Yeah, but you don't really
approximate.
want English. You want St. Lucian English.
Exactly, that's what I meant.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, that's what I meant by it.
That's what I was going to ask.
like
In terms of
creolization.
translation, I mean, I think we were doing translation for the book, the Setlissi book, when we were doing it.
Yeah.
And then I was wondering when in the translations, if you're going to do that, I mean, what are you translating it to? Are you translating it to St. Lucian English?
Yeah.
With the St. Lucian sensibility, the kind of diction perhaps that a St. Lucian would exercise, or are you going to, go over to the kind of standard?
It's always the singer.
Yeah.
What the singer has to do.
Okay.
If the singer feels I have to sing this fake American, fake English thing, I'm not a St. Lucian singer. You know what I mean? It doesn't have the thing. So that if you do a translation, I think you have to keep the singer in mind,
Yes, agreed.
definitely for the performance,
Yeah.
right? But I would recommend that we all do it, do translations. We'll have a good anthology. And you can do variations by different poets on one translation. I think the sense I did, I would like you could use Robert's and mine and some, 3 or 4 of them. Because not only is it a tribute to her, it's almost called for. But when you come across the lines of, say, the first stanza, what is the meaning of, and you can't even get it in patois. Tell me the exact lines. Zot mamai actuellement. That is, now what is mamai?
Children.
I'm sure it's children or people?
Young people. I translate as young people when I did translation. I went for young people, yeah. Young people of today, you do not make your love for nothing. I said, you do not make your love for nothing. Again,
C'est mamai actuellement. The young people today, it'll work. Then the next beat is, what is that line?
you do not make your love for nothing.
What does that mean?
Exactly.
Pas qu'à
That's what we were
faire.
talking about kind of
Yeah.
before.
Pas qu'à faire l'amour pour rien.
What do you think? What do you think that means?
Well, there's one meaning I'm getting, which is like almost like you don't really know what real love is. You can't do that for nothing. You know, we have that way of saying things. You can't play football for nothing. He can't play football for nothing, which means he cannot play. He doesn't know what the real thing is like. That's one dimension of it for me in terms of hearing that line. You don't make love for nothing, as if with all that she went through with the lover, that is kind of what love, true love,
Okay,
has to go
sing
through
it.
that.
Sing it. Sing it.
In the Creole.
Yeah.
Mama la cholma zot pa ka fe l'amour pour rien.
Right. No, the line is long.
Yeah.
Right. The beat is long. So you might have a little flexibility in there. But you're saying you all do not make love for nothing.
Well, I wasn't doing the
What
translation.
does
I was
that
giving
mean?
the meaning. What I thought she meant by the line.
That's a translation.
Well, yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
But it's an interesting kind of,
interpretation.
kind of counterpoint and tension there. You don't make your love for nothing. To me, it's introducing a certain tension between the thoughts. Ou pas qu'à faire l'amour, après l'amour zot, pour rien. You do not make your love for nothing. You're almost
But this
emphasizing
is
how
a
Muslim you
terribly
are.
cynical line.
Yeah, of course.
Very
I think
cynical.
so. Exactly. Exactly.
And what it accuses, I think, is almost like,
It's a hard line.
I mean it. I think he's saying that young people are whorish.
Well, I always assumed that's what
Yeah,
it
you don't
meant.
do anything for anything.
Right? You took it for that too?
And that's how I've always interpreted it. Now, Creole is not a good. I mean, I'm not a good Creole speaker, but that is how I've always heard that line.
I think so.
Yeah,
So you took it to mean what?
to mean that you make love for money.
Well, I took it
You don't do it for nothing. You have to get something for it.
So I don't think of the line as cynical. I
Yeah.
think she's saying that the young people are cynical. The line is a
Yeah.
very moralistic line.
Yeah. But I don't even think, when you say
No,
don't
but
make,
it's also a judgment of the conduct of the people.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. I don't think the
Exactly.
line itself is cynical. I don't think it's coming from a cynical standpoint. It's to me, it's condemning in a very moral way persons who have a cynical attitude towards
Love.
yeah.
Well, it depends on if you're shrugging it off or if you take it, saying it. I think.
But I also take it, Derek, not also to, she's not necessarily talking necessarily
Let's
about,
hang around here. I want to stick around.
But isn't
here.
that the repeated line?
yeah, but at the same time, you know,
Yeah.
at a deeper level, I don't even take it at a first level, maybe yes, sexual love, but she's also saying something bigger. You don't do anything for anybody for nothing. Not even come and pick up something for me, clean my house for me, do a message for me. So parfait, rien pour rien. In other words, yes, love is involved, that emotional part, but it's bigger than that. You're so
No, but
ungrateful,
she
you're doing
said
nothing for
no,
nothing.
but she specifically says, you don't make love.
Yes,
So what Jane is saying is what I've been thinking too. You don't make love for nothing. So even you have a girlfriend, then her attitude is horish because you and her don't make love. I mean, it's money involved, something involved. Not necessarily money, but
Yeah.
Maybe you're not capable of the kind of sacrifice that she presents in the song itself, where she does all this for this man, and out of love.
But doesn't that come though from a kind of wiser person than the young person,
Yeah.
right? And in her judgment today, I mean, it's a fantastic jump from I met you all torn up or whatever condition. And then to go from that, which is the portrait of the guy in the equivalent of rags, right? To the cynical thing of you kids today, you children today don't do. I mean, the link of that is stupendous for me. The judgment. The reason why they're like that is because the young people are as a consequence of him. The young people are a consequence of saying something. Today you do it.
A consequence of him, the kind of ungrateful
That
love.
kind, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because it is a jump. Because at the end she just jumps to this kind of line after giving the whole scenario as well. So there seems to be some kind of connection between that scenario that she's giving there, showing the ingratitude of the lover who she helped out, and the kind of statement she makes at the end of it as well. Yeah.
What she does in that verse too is quite, admirable. Moi je vais nous, what?
Je vais nous à gauche,
Moi je vais nous à gauche, I mean, no, gauche is.
Gauche.
No, I know gauche. Grand?
I think it's Guan, you know. I think it's
She
Guan.
changes the words from
That's
time
true.
to time.
She changes to yeah.
Okay, but what she's saying is, I met you out in the open, in the high road somewhere. Oh, no, that's my thing. And this, Rimbaud line, the Baudelaire line, Moi je vais nous tout déchiré. This is an emotional description. The guy is not just torn up.
Broken up?
Huh?
He's broken
Torn
up.
apart.
Torn apart.
He's a mess.
He's a mess, yeah.
You agree with that, Kendal?
Look
at me. I mean,
and to me, it can take a physical, it can take a physical correlation as well as.
At the same time, it could have both of them.
I don't think it's one or the other. It's both.
We're all messed up.
tout déchiré.
That's a strong, that's a powerful line, powerful phrase. You're completely broken up.
I don't think it's one of those guys you see with nearly any clothes. You know what I mean?
No.
No, right?
No. It's a description of a state of somebody. The person's state.
So what do we do?
Translation.
You have to do a translation. If you're saying, moi je vais nous tout déchirer, what's the rough equivalent of that? Going down the line, Kendal what?
I know I'd go somewhere along the line of well torn up, like, well torn up is what comes to mind for the time being. I know that would not be final. But because torn up has an English connotation of,
When you say well, you mean very.
very, yeah. Yeah, but I wouldn't want to say very.
Well in terms of very.
Yeah, well in terms of very. Yeah.
I met you on the high road.
Yeah.
I met you well torn up.
Something
That's a
yeah.
colloquial.
Yeah.
Okay, I did the translation too.
Yeah.
I think, so the rhyme I had is for bread is road, which is not a rhyme, it's visual rhyme. But in the actual lines, no, she says, I took you home, right?
Yeah. My man Awalakai.
Yeah.
See, this is a hell of a,
That was just my
I
own.
took you home.
Give you
Bao
food, give you
bao
drink.
manger.
Bao manger.
So the guy is in a pretty, but you see the guy is in a pretty bad shape too. I mean, the same guy we're saying is not that torn up. It's the same guy who can do with a piece of bread.
Exactly, give you drink, yeah.
I can sense that she's balancing that physical torn apart and the emotional torn apart throughout. Because even the sense of giving you food and drink, of not mentioning the particular anything. You say, I gave you food, I gave you drink.
Right.
To me, is allowing her to balance it on that level of an emotional torn apart, the lyrical sense of that, and the kind
Well,
of
the
physical.
phrase "bao boire, bao manger" is very patois, very normal.
Well, true. Yes. Yeah. I gave you food, I gave you drink. And then she brought him to this store. So even that maintains the kind of almost physical torn apart as
What's
well.
all you needed.
Yeah.
Stay with us for this very special discussion for St. Lucia's Nobel Laureate Week.
Family time is a healthy time, and a healthy family eats smart. Local fish and seafood from fishermen and farmers that you trust with your family's health is always fresh. Choose fresh seafood because it's packed with nutrients. St. Lucia's Fish and Seafood Producers meet every government standard for health and safety, high quality, fresh local food products straight from the fisherman to you. Choose St. Lucian Fish and Seafood at your local grocers and choose a healthy lifestyle for your entire family.
I use fresh local fish right there from the fisheries department. Eat fresh, buy local.
St. Lucia's fishermen produce an abundance of fresh foods, highly nutritious and incredibly tasty. Together when it's most important. Healthy families. Buy fresh, eat fresh.
Play ba ba ba, play ba ba dine, play boom ba dine dine. Don't be negligent.
Care for the environment.
Keep away pollution.
Care for the environment.
Energy conservation.
Care for the environment.
When you making money,
care for the environment.
Work with everybody, Papa say.
Care for the environment.
Hi, this is Invader from St. Lucia. Practice good fishing habits. Stop the illegal sand mining, don't dump waste in rivers, gutters and watershed areas. Remember, your environment affects my environment.
When you planning, I say,
care for the environment.
Watch what you throw away.
Care for the environment.
Be intelligent, Papa baby.
Care for the environment.
Jane, you've lived in St. Lucia, another solution, but you write poetry. What has been, you can't summarize easily, but what has been, that's very dumb to say, what has been your experience. But in a rough outline, what has it been like to be in a culture, not that you're estranged from it, but you're not essentially a part of it? And what is your, where do you place yourself in that context?
It's really strange that you should ask it like that. I mean, I see myself as a St. Lucian. I was born here. They took me away when I was 6 months old, and they didn't bring me back until I was 12. So I didn't grow up speaking Creole. But a lot of my early childhood was actually in Trinidad. And the kind of experience Vladimir is talking about is something I would understand. When I moved back here as an adult after I went to university, I did try to learn Creole, and I mean there are a number of quite good books around, and you know I really worked on it. And in some of my earlier poetry, I tried a little bit, but I think you need to be careful, because if a language isn't really a part of you, you know, it's difficult to use it properly. I think I could probably play with translations, although, I mean, yeah, I think I could, partly because exactly what Vladimir was saying. If you've grown up in contexts where people speak English Creoles, you have the context, you know, for understanding some of the allusions, and that is what you miss, I think, when you really aren't part of a language. You know that's where the richness comes from, isn't it? That's where, you know, where one word means not just that, it means this, that, and that. Yeah. I'm just thinking of references. It's something that Derek I mean, it's the absolute richness of Derek's poetry for me, is that one word always refers, you know, in 10 directions. You know, you can pull threads in from all sorts of stories from just one or two words, and that's what's, you know, that's what makes your poetry
what
so.
I'm not doing or becoming definitely is, I'm not now a convert and a heavy advocate of Creole poetry.
No.
As opposed to
translating.
Know what I mean?
Yeah.
As that's the only thing, that's we thing, and I'm not involved in that vantage.
No, but what I was thinking of...
I'm not saying you are, but I'm saying I see that risk.
People very often say that and there are jokes you can make in Creole, or there are things you can say in Creole that you can't possibly say in English. And it can only be true to an extent, because any language must enable you to say what you need to say. It's just that it does it in different ways, and that's really it comes from the allusions and the
Jewish
context.
Jokes are based on pronunciation entirely of the language. It comes out of that. So the same is true of Creole.
And a lot of the music that's coming out now, it plays on that kind of thing with Creole. The relationship actually between Creole and English, the mispronunciations, the malaprops, and all of these things, as actually the source of a lot of the humor in some of the songs coming out. So,
let me jump to another crude, simple question, though. I mean, I looked at my age the other day and nearly fell down. I won't tell you, but it's 86. Don't believe that. Wow. But I haven't lived here all my life. I've lived a good part of it here, and I'm living here now. There are problems for me in living here now, some of which I won't tell you. One of the problems is vanity on the part of a lot of people who are a little too vain about what they do. There's not enough humility around for me. But what I'm talking about in terms of Creole, or for instance, I mean, the last couple of days when I've been working on the same thing have come as a revelation to me about what I mean, I don't want to get corny and nationalistic, but a tremendous poet she is. I didn't realize that until I began to work on her choice of vernacular words that have concision. For instance, you can only admire moi je nous tout déchiré. If you think of it, it's desolation. I met you, you were all torn up. Whether you were wearing clothes that were torn up, which is also what she could mean. She could be some guy who works on the road and his clothes are bad. But the contrast of that is devastating. Here am I, a young woman, I meet you, you're supposed to be my love, and you're in these clothes, that condition. Tout déchiré, what is it? But I think it's the emotional thing, you see. Isn't that right? And if it is if I met you all torn up, it's extremely powerful. What do you think?
I don't think of it as an either or, it's both.
Yeah. And the thing about taking him home, I take you to my place, this is another. If you take the casual, I give you bread and
bread and water?
Yeah. That is so normal. So that's been happening. But apart from that, kind of summarize, what is it like, for me, I know my answer, but what is it like? You have some reputation as a poet, your work is known, people know about you or are beginning to know about you. So there's your, I hate the word, but it is a word, a career as a writer, which again I hate, but since you don't have such a thing here, that's what you have anyway, right? And what is that like here in St. Lucia now? Kendal, what for you?
Yeah, well, first of all, I don't think of it as a career. To me, a career is something that I make money from. I don't make money from this thing, so it's not a career. It's but I guess I've always seen it as part of understanding myself, because I've always understood myself as being part of this of St. Lucia, and St. Lucia is part of the Caribbean. there's, for want of a better word, you know, that I could just get too cliche. I just keep maybe stupidly holding on to this vision as a Caribbean, and places like St. Lucia, which to me are a bridge culture, because we have a dual culture. I keep thinking of the Caribbean as a place where a type of model society for the world is possible, that it has happened here already to some extent. It's in danger of being lost. But because I think of it that way, and I think of myself as a part of it, a lot of my reflections are how does this happen? How does the Caribbean, how does St. Lucia become the kind of society it has the possibility to be, and give the people who are living in it the possibility of being the kind of persons that we already have all the elements in us to be. A lot of my internal reflection is to do with that. So that's why it's difficult for me to think of living, of settling somewhere else, and you know, yeah. And my poetic journey has always been about that. So the career thing is like, you know, I don't know if that can ever happen, you know, since as a profession. But I don't see that can stop.
The day-to-day,
life.
The day-to-day experience of living here.
Yeah.
Does it ever get does it ever get to you and get you down?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but
how much?
But to me, that's a given. At this stage, not so much, because to me, it's something I over years, I've learned to accept what is wonderful and what is valid about me living here.
But are you angry about that, or are you tolerant of it?
I take it as just, this is how it is. No, I can't say angry, because you see, when I try to think of, okay, so what would the alternative have been? So you know, so I mean, I like theater. I can't quite understand what it would have been to be involved in theater, like in England or America. You know, I suspect I would have found it very unsatisfactory. So it's.
Well, you're young and you're ahead of you. We have all our experience added up, and you're facing that. What do you think as you will you stay here?
I'm trying to, but it's of course it seems more and more difficult.
What was the answer?
I said I'm trying my best too. I mean, all the forces are pushing you outward. I mean, everything is telling you. I mean, in terms of the kind of stability that you want, so that you, for instance, could be
Have
able
you
to.
had those moments where you say to yourself, "What am I doing here? I should get out of here"?
But it's always simultaneously with a feeling of knowing that this is where I need to be, because there's a sense in which how I entered poetry in the first place, or writing, or even starting to think about things, it is part of a kind of personal drama that is there in it. Even when I'm not writing about myself or writing about any of my own personal experiences, it's certain things that I have to resolve. And to me, I cannot see anywhere else for me to resolve them properly, except for being here. So I mean, yes, on the surface, for instance, something might seem to be about language, and that kind of dichotomy that is really bigger than language in St. Lucia. For instance, we were talking about Creole and English, but these things also separate sometimes classes. They deal with things of the value of human beings and all of these things that you face growing up. So for me, a lot of these things that are in me and are things that constantly consume me, dramas, little dramas that I have to resolve. And the thing is, St. Lucia is intrinsically connected with that. If not St. Lucia, then the Caribbean, because there's a lot of that we share.
How do you react to the poverty?
Here? I don't know. I mean, I would think that I was pretty close to it. My grandmother was a very poor lady growing up here, and it's a sense in which, there's a sense in which you could be appalled by it as well. But for instance, having to go to visit my grandmother and so on, you see how there is that as well, and you know that it has to change, but you also do not fall into the role of seeing these people completely as victims. You understand? I mean, living among people like my grandmother, they live life in the same way that everybody else lives, and it doesn't mean that we don't change what is happening, but I think there's a great danger in starting to see people solely as victims and without complete agency and so on. So I mean, I think I have a double vision when it comes to looking at it, you know, because having been in a sense on the inside, not growing up in it, but having that kind of connection with it, and also having the other connection of being outside looking into it, I think I have a kind of double vision looking at it. Really.
Okay. Robert, you've been there a long time and you're staying, but you've traveled. What do you feel these days about St. Lucia?
In many ways, I think of St. Lucia, and I always like to put St. Lucia in the Caribbean. I think we've gone backwards. That's what I keep saying to friends all the time. I think we've gone backwards in so many ways for some reason. In terms of our own interest in writing, literature, the arts, there was a time when even say Kendal, Jane, myself can think of a period here, 80s for example, early 90s, when there was much more happening, seemed to be much more happening, much more vibrant, much more productive in many kinds of ways. And it seems to be because I also do an adjustment and say, okay, well, that is us and our generation. And there's not much that seems to be happening, not much theaters before, when you're Lighthouse Theatre and so on and so forth. We're not even seeing the younger writers publishing, putting things out, the anthologies, whatever. But then I would say then perhaps for another generation, other things are happening. A lot of the kids are into digital stuff, maybe making films more in their own ways. Other kinds of arts are taking their attention. But there's still a lot of sort of sadness and maybe depression sometimes, that the vision people like your generation had, Derek, you, Kamau, George Lamming, something Kendall just touched on, a Caribbean where the arts were recognized by the governments, by everybody. There's a rich environment for art because it's such a naturally fermenting ground for art and artists. And yet your generation said it, we've come, we've carried the torch,
I disagree.
we haven't seen it happen.
I disagree. I think your generation has been more, has been supportive more than we were.
Okay.
It was inconceivable to think you could go to the government and get any help at all. Why are you going to the government? That's synonymous now with the arts.
True.
That the government should help. So I think you live in a more benign climate of appreciation than we did. I'm not making comparisons, but I think that is so. From my point of view, at my age, I'm astonished at the amount of activity there is in the arts and the quality of the product that happens. But again, what I'm terrified of is local conceit.
Yes. Okay.
People's opinion of their work is phenomenal. Really, you know. So that's a lacking of modesty that I find very upsetting.
Yes, I find that too. Without the groundwork. I find that too without the groundwork of work it takes to shape your work, shape your craft, and so on.
Jane, how do you read?
No, I've been listening to you all about, talking about St. Lucia and living here and what it means, and, whether you feel driven to go somewhere else. And I've been trying to hear what it is that living in St. Lucia means to each of you. And frankly, I'm not really hearing it. I don't know what it is for you to be here as opposed to being somewhere else. And and I was thinking, for me, my problems with it would tend to be on a much more personal sort of level. I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult to be in such a very small society. I think there's an interesting sort of paradox of loneliness of living in a very small society where you have a very you know everybody, and because you know everybody, you have to be kind of careful what you say to who, I mean, somebody said to me once years ago, just if you want to not be stressed in St. Lucia, make sure you never say anything bad about anyone, because you can bet that within 2 days it will have gotten back to that person. That's just how living in St. Lucia is, and that kind of thing is very troublesome to me, because it on a personal level, it makes it difficult to have honest, open conversations and relationships. And that, if anything, would drive me to a bigger city where you can go and talk to someone in a coffee shop and say what you like to say, and nobody will ever know what you said, but I mean, in terms of arts and so on, I'm not sure I get what you're saying about government helping. I don't think government is very helpful up to now. But I know when I came back here first years ago, I thought the good thing about doing the arts in St. Lucia is that there's so little happening that if you want to see it happening, you have to do it yourself. And therefore it forces you to get out there and do it. Whereas when I lived in Edinburgh, where I went to university, you didn't have to do a thing because it was all laid on, I mean, you wanted to hear poetry, you wanted to see theater, you wanted to do music, you just had to step out the door and it was right there. Here you have to make it happen.
All right, I think I'm closing now to think that without making a summary, I think talking about size is crucial. How do we relate to where we are? This is a very small town, but that doesn't mean a small town produces small talents. It's the opposite. Maybe it may be the smallness of the town, the provinciality is what produces the genius. That can happen. Well, this has been very, very nice. Thank all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, of course, to the Honourable Derek Walcott, Jane Hippolyte, Vladimir Lucien, Robert Lee, and of course Kendal Hippolyte for sharing their thoughts and their discussions. And of course, thank you for remaining with us. Please visit the Nobel Laureate Week Facebook page for all the activities and events that are happening throughout the week. Until, hopefully I'll see you soon, goodbye. Thank you for watching.
Papa,